On a distant planet named Vintha, the sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the vast green fields and towering crystal mountains. This planet was home to the Vintha, a peaceful alien race known for their vibrant blue skin and long, graceful limbs. The Vintha had always lived in harmony, nurturing their land and cherishing their families. But today, a shadow loomed over their world. A powerful enemy, the Gorgons, had invaded Vintha. These fierce creatures were known for their enormous size and ruthless nature. They thrived on chaos and destruction, leaving nothing but ruins in their wake. The Gorgons wanted Vintha's rich resources, and they would stop at nothing to claim them. The peaceful Vintha found themselves in a fight for survival. As the Gorgons approached, the Vintha leaders gathered in their grand hall, a magnificent structure made of shimmering crystals. The room was filled with tension and worry. "We must do something," said Elder Kiran, the wisest of the Vintha. "If we do not act quickly, our home will be lost." The leaders debated for hours, their voices rising in fear and frustration. "We cannot fight them alone," said Lyra, a young warrior. "We need help from other worlds." The room fell silent as everyone considered this idea. The Vintha had always kept to themselves, rarely reaching out to other races. Would anyone even listen to their call for help? Finally, the decision was made. They would send a distress signal across the galaxy. The Vintha worked together, using their advanced technology to craft a message that echoed through space. "We are in danger. The Gorgons are attacking. We need help." The signal traveled far and wide, hoping to reach anyone willing to assist. Days passed, and the Vintha waited anxiously. The sound of explosions and cries of their people filled the air as the Gorgons advanced. Fear settled into the hearts of the Vintha as they watched their beloved land fall into chaos. Yet no help arrived. The message faded into silence, and hope began to dwindle. Meanwhile, on a nearby planet known as Earth, a group of humans received the Vintha's distress call. These humans were not the heroes of the galaxy. They had been labeled as betrayers by their own kind. They had chosen to leave Earth, seeking adventure and a new life among the stars. Many saw them as cowards, abandoning their home when it needed them the most. In a rundown space station on the edge of the galaxy, a man named Jason sat in front of a flickering screen. He had once been a soldier on Earth, proud and loyal. But after seeing the corruption and greed of his own people, he chose to leave. He had gathered a small crew of like-minded individuals who also felt betrayed by their own world. They spent their days traveling through space, searching for purpose. As Jason listened to the distress signal, he felt a stirring in his heart. "They need our help," he said, turning to his crew. "We may not be heroes, but we can't turn our backs on those in need." The crew exchanged uncertain glances, but the call for help ignited a spark of determination within them. "We can't just sit here and do nothing," said Sarah, a skilled pilot with a fierce spirit. "Let's go and show them that not all humans are cowards." The others nodded in agreement, feeling a sense of unity among them. They may have been seen as betrayers, but they had the chance to prove themselves and make a difference. With a plan in mind, Jason and his crew prepared their ship, the Star Seeker. They stocked up on supplies, weapons, and equipment for the journey ahead. As they blasted off into the starry sky, excitement and anxiety coursed through their veins. They were about to embark on a mission that could change their lives forever. Back on Vintha, the situation grew dire. The Gorgons were relentless, tearing through the Vintha's defenses with ease. Panic spread among the people as they watched their homes burn and their loved ones fall. In the midst of the chaos, Elder Kiran stood tall, rallying the remaining warriors. "We must not lose hope," he shouted. "We are the guardians of this planet. We will fight until our last breath." Just as despair threatened to swallow them, a bright light streaked across the sky. The Vintha looked up, shielding their eyes from the glare. A ship descended, landing in a field not far from the battle. Confusion filled the air as the Vintha wondered who had arrived. Was it an enemy, or perhaps their long-awaited savior? As the ship's doors opened, a group of humans stepped out. Their faces were determined, and their hearts were filled with purpose. They had answered the call for help. The Varanth stood in awe, seeing these strange beings willing to fight alongside them. In that moment, hope flickered back to life among the Varanth. The betraying humans had come to their rescue. Together, they would face the Gorgons and fight for their home, proving that sometimes the most unexpected allies could emerge in the darkest of times. The battle was not yet over, but with newfound strength and unity, the Varanth and their human allies were ready to stand together against the tide of destruction. A new chapter was beginning, one filled with courage, friendship, and the promise of victory. The surprising responders. As the dust settled around the Star Seeker, the humans stepped onto the vibrant green grass of Varanthia, feeling the warmth of the planet's sun on their skin. Jason, the leader of the group, looked around, taking in the stunning beauty of the alien world. Tall, shimmering trees reached for the sky, and colorful flowers bloomed everywhere. But there was no time to admire the scenery. The sound of distant explosions reminded them of the urgent battle ahead. The Varanth warriors gathered near the ship, their blue skin glistening in the light. They looked both curious and cautious as they observed the humans. Elder Kirin stepped forward, a mix of hope and skepticism on his face. "You came," he said, his voice steady. "But can you really help us?" Jason took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "We know your people are in danger," he replied. "We may not be heroes, but we are here to fight by your side." Lyra, the young warrior who had first suggested calling for help, stepped closer. "We need your strength and skills. The Gorgons are powerful, and we must act fast." She looked into Jason's eyes, searching for assurance. The humans quickly introduced themselves. Sarah, the pilot, had bright eyes filled with determination. Mark, the tech expert, was nervous but eager, and Mia, a former medic, had a calming presence that made everyone feel at ease. They were an unusual group, and they knew they had to earn the trust of the Varanth. Elder Kirin nodded slowly. "Very well. We will show you our ways, and you can show us yours. Together, we will prepare for the battle." With that, the Varanth led the humans toward their training grounds, where the air was thick with tension and fear. As they walked, Jason couldn't help but notice the differences between their two races. The Varanth moved with grace, their long limbs flowing as they walked. The humans, in contrast, were more rigid and sturdy, a different kind of strength. Yet, despite their differences, they shared a common goal: to save Varanthia. Once they arrived at the training grounds, the atmosphere changed. The Varanth warriors were already practicing their combat skills. Jason and his team watched as they executed elegant movements, using their agility to dodge imaginary attacks. It was beautiful to see, but it also made Jason realize how much they needed to adapt their approach. "Okay, let's start with some basics," Jason said, stepping forward. "We may not move like you, but we can fight." He grabbed a training stick and demonstrated a few simple moves. The Varanth watched with interest, their eyes bright with curiosity. After Jason's demonstration, Sarah took her turn. "I'll show you some flying techniques," she said, excitement bubbling in her voice. She explained how humans used machines to fly and how they could incorporate some of those ideas into their strategies. The Varanth listened closely, taking notes and asking questions. Mark, eager to contribute, pulled out his tools. "I can modify some of your weapons," he offered. "We can add some technology to make them stronger." The Varanth were fascinated. They had never seen such devices, and they crowded around Mark, eager to learn. As the training began, something unexpected happened. The humans, despite their differences, quickly found their place among the Varanth. They taught the aliens how to work together as a team, emphasizing communication and trust. In return, the Varanth shared their knowledge of the land, showing the humans how to use the environment to their advantage. During breaks, they shared stories about their homes, The Varanth spoke of their traditions and the beauty of Varanthia, while the humans shared tales of Earth, filled with its own challenges and wonders. Laughter echoed through the training grounds as they discovered common interests, including their love for nature and a good meal. Days passed, and the bond between the two groups grew stronger. The Varanth began to see the humans not as betrayers but as allies. The humans, in turn, learned to appreciate the Varanth's unique strengths. The warriors trained harder, and their movements became more fluid, blending human techniques with alien agility. One afternoon, as they trained under the bright sun, a sudden alarm sounded. The ground shook, and everyone looked toward the horizon. A cloud of dust rose in the distance, and the familiar roar of Gorgon war machines filled the air. The time for training was over. The enemy was here. Elder Kirin gathered everyone. This is it. We have prepared for this moment. We fight for our planet, for our families, and for each other. The Varanth warriors nodded, their determination shining bright. Jason turned to his crew. "Are you ready?" he asked, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "We've trained hard, and now we face the Gorgons together." Sarah smiled, gripping her weapon tightly. "Let's show them what we've got." As the Gorgons approached, the humans and Varanth warriors stood side by side. They were no longer two separate groups. They had become one fighting force. With a shared purpose and newfound trust, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they prepared to defend Varanthia, proving that unexpected alliances could lead to great strength. The battle would test them all, but they were ready to fight for their shared future. Training together. As the sun rose over Varanthia, its warm rays filled the training grounds where humans and Varanth warriors prepared for battle. The air was thick with determination and the scent of blooming flowers. Jason and his crew stood alongside the Varanth, ready to put their training into action. Elder Kirin gathered everyone early that morning. "Today, we combine our strengths," he said, his voice strong. "Let's show the Gorgons the power of our unity." The Varanth nodded, their blue skin shimmering in the sunlight, while the humans felt a rush of excitement and fear. The training sessions had been intense. The humans had learned much about the Varanth's unique combat techniques, which focused on agility and fluid movements. The Varanth, on the other hand, had started to understand the humans' methods, especially their use of technology and teamwork. Together, they created new strategies that blended both styles. "Let's start with the basics," Jason said, stepping forward. "We will practice the moves we learned." He demonstrated a simple combination of kicks and dodges, encouraging everyone to join in. The Varanth moved gracefully, their long limbs flowing like water. The humans were less elegant, but their determination shone through as they followed along. As they practiced, laughter filled the air. Sarah encouraged a group of Varanth warriors to try a human-style leap. They jumped high and some landed with wobbly legs, causing everyone to giggle. "You can do it," Sarah cheered, clapping her hands. "Just believe in yourself." Lyra watched the humans with admiration. "They are so spirited," she thought. Inspired by the humans' enthusiasm, she decided to take the lead in a Varanth training exercise. "Now let me show you how we fight," she said, demonstrating a series of quick movements that showcased the agility of her people. The humans watched closely, amazed at how the Varanth moved with such grace. "They make it look easy," Mark whispered to Mia, who nodded in agreement. It was clear that everyone had different strengths, and they were eager to learn from one another. "Let's partner up," Jason suggested. "Humans with Varanth." He paired up with Lyra. While Sarah worked with a warrior named Tarek, Mark partnered with a tall Varanth named Asha, and Mia teamed up with Elder Kiran. As they practiced, Jason felt the differences between them start to fade. He focused on Lyra's movements, trying to mimic her flow while adding his own strength to each move. "Keep your balance," she advised, helping him adjust his stance. They laughed as they stumbled at times, but they quickly regained their focus, pushing each other to improve. Meanwhile, Sarah and Tarek had their own challenges. Tarek was fast, but Sarah's determination made up for her lack of agility. "You can do it, just like this," Sarah shouted as she leaped over Tarek and landed behind him, causing him to chuckle. He attempted to do the same, but his height made it difficult, and he fell onto the grass. "Not bad for a start," Sarah said, laughing as she helped him up. Tarek grinned, his eyes shining with excitement. They were learning from each other in a way neither had expected. Mark and Asha focused on building strength. Mark taught Asha how to use some of the human weapons, explaining how they worked. "This is called a laser blaster," he said, demonstrating its use. Asha's eyes widened with fascination. She took the weapon and aimed carefully, hitting a target with impressive accuracy. "I like this," she exclaimed, her excitement infectious. Meanwhile, Mia and Elder Kiran practiced healing techniques. Maya showed him how to treat wounds and manage pain using human methods. Kiran shared herbal remedies from Vintha that worked effectively for their kind. They exchanged knowledge, recognizing the value in each other's practices. As the sun reached its peak, they took a break, gathering around a shaded area. Water was shared, and everyone enjoyed a meal of fruits and nuts that the Vintha had gathered. Jason felt a sense of camaraderie grow stronger as they laughed and exchanged stories. Suddenly, a loud horn echoed in the distance. The cheerful atmosphere shifted to tension as everyone froze. The sound was a warning that the Gorgons were approaching. Elder Kiran stood up, his face serious. "We have little time left. Let's prepare for what is to come," he urged. The group quickly regrouped, readying themselves for the fight ahead. They had trained hard, and the bond between humans and Vintha was now strong. Each member of the group knew their role and felt a sense of responsibility to protect their newfound friends. As they assembled their weapons and armor, Jason felt a wave of confidence wash over him. "Together, we can do this," he declared, his voice steady. Lyra nodded, her expression fierce. "We will not back down." The humans and Vintha warriors formed a line, standing side by side. They had learned from each other and had forged an unbreakable bond. As they prepared to face the Gorgons, they knew that their unity would be their greatest strength. The Gorgons were coming, and while fear loomed over them, hope and courage filled their hearts. They were ready to fight for Vintha, ready to protect their home, and ready to stand together against the coming storm. First fight. The air buzzed with tension as the humans and Vintha warriors stood side by side, ready for their first fight against the Gorgons. The distant sounds of marching feet and clanking armor grew louder, shaking the ground beneath them. Jason could feel his heart racing, a mix of fear and excitement surging through him. This was the moment they had trained for, but now that it was here, the reality of the battle weighed heavily on his shoulders. Elder Kiran stepped forward, raising his hand to call for silence. "Listen closely," he said, his voice steady despite the approaching threat. "Today, we fight for our homes, our families, and each other. Remember what we have learned. Trust your training and trust each other." The Vintha warriors nodded, their blue skin gleaming with determination, while the humans exchanged glances, feeling the strength of their alliance. Jason turned to his crew, giving them a reassuring smile. "We've trained hard for this. Stick together, and we'll make it through." Sarah, Mark, and Mia nodded, their faces set with determination. Suddenly, the Gorgons burst into view, their large frames looming menacingly. They were covered in dark armor, their eyes glowing with malice. The sight sent a chill through Jason, but he pushed the fear aside. "Ready," he shouted, raising his weapon high. The Vintha warriors, agile and swift, moved in formation, ready to engage. The humans positioned themselves behind them, using their technology to provide support. Jason took a deep breath, focusing on the fight ahead. "On my mark," he yelled as the Gorgons closed in. With a deafening roar, the Gorgons charged forward. Jason felt his instincts kick in, and he shouted, "Now!" The combined forces of humans and Varanth surged into action. Lyra was the first to leap into battle. Her speed was impressive as she dodged the incoming Gorgons, using her agility to strike at their weak points. Jason followed her lead, his laser blaster aimed at the nearest Gorgon. He fired, and the shot hit its target, causing the creature to stumble. Encouraged by the success, he shouted, "We can do this." Sarah worked alongside Tarek, using her skills to support the Varanth in close combat. Together, they fought off a Gorgon that had gotten too close, combining their moves with surprising harmony. Tarek slashed with his weapon while Sarah provided cover fire, keeping the enemy at bay. Mark stayed back, focusing on using technology to their advantage. He set up small devices that emitted bright flashes of light, temporarily blinding the Gorgons. "Over here," he called, guiding the Varanth to take advantage of the distraction. The Gorgons stumbled and struggled, giving the warriors a chance to strike. Mia moved through the battlefield, using her medical skills to help the wounded. She quickly bandaged a Varanth who had been hurt, ensuring they could continue to fight. "Stay strong," she encouraged, her voice calm amidst the chaos. The Varanth warrior nodded, inspired by her dedication. The battle raged on, and the sounds of clashing weapons and cries filled the air. The humans and Varanth worked together seamlessly, creating a rhythm that surprised even themselves. They fought with a shared purpose, each supporting the other in the heat of combat. But just as they began to gain ground, a larger Gorgon emerged from the shadows. It towered over the others, its armor thicker and more imposing. With a roar, it swung a massive club, sending nearby warriors flying. Jason's heart sank as he watched one of the Varanth crash to the ground. "Stay focused," he shouted, rallying his team. They needed to regroup and come up with a plan to take down this new threat. "We can't let fear stop us." Elder Kiran took charge, rallying the Varanth. "We will face this monster together," he shouted. The warriors cheered, their fear replaced by a fierce determination. They rallied around Jason and his crew, ready to take on the larger Gorgon. "On my signal," Jason called, his mind racing. He needed to find a way to outsmart the beast. "We'll distract it, and then strike." Lyra and Tarek moved to one side, drawing the Gorgon's attention. They darted in and out, using their agility to confuse the creature. Meanwhile, Jason and Sarah took position on the other side, ready to flank it. Mark prepared one of his blinding devices, knowing it could give them the edge they needed. "Now," Jason yelled. Lyra and Tarek executed their plan flawlessly, making the Gorgon focus on them. As the creature swung its club, Jason and Sarah sprang into action. They fired their weapons simultaneously, hitting the Gorgon in its weak spots. The Gorgon roared in pain, momentarily distracted. Mark took his chance, activating the blinding device. A bright flash illuminated the battlefield, causing the Gorgon to stumble back, disoriented. "Now, attack," Kiran commanded, and the Varanth warriors charged forward, joining the humans in their final push. Together, they struck with all their might, a whirlwind of determination and strength. With one final blow, the Gorgon fell to the ground, defeated. The remaining Gorgons hesitated, their morale shattered. The humans and Varanth cheered, their voices rising in triumph. "Victory is ours," Jason shouted, feeling a surge of pride and relief. They had come together, fought as one, and emerged victorious. As the dust settled, the warriors looked around at the battlefield, taking in the hard-fought victory. They had faced danger and uncertainty, but they had also discovered the strength of their alliance. They were no longer just humans and Varanth. They were allies, friends, and warriors united against a common enemy. In that moment, Jason realized that their journey was just beginning. They had much more to face, but together, they could overcome anything. Doubts and courage. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the battlefield. The victory against the Gorgons had left the humans and Varanth warriors feeling triumphant. But the cost of their fight was evident. Some warriors were injured, and the mood had shifted from celebration to concern. As they tended to the wounded and cleared the area, doubts began to creep into Jason's mind. Jason sat on a fallen log, watching the Varanth warriors work together, their blue skin glistening in the fading light. Lyra approached him, her expression serious. "You look troubled," she said, sitting down beside him. "What is on your mind?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We won today, but what if it isn't enough? The Gorgons will come back, and they will bring more of their kind. What if we aren't strong enough to face them again?" Lyra placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We are stronger together than we were alone. Today showed that. Each fight we win makes us more united." "But what if our unity isn't enough?" Jason pressed. "What if they overwhelm us? I've never fought a war before. I'm just a medic." Lyra looked into his eyes, her gaze steady. "You are more than just a medic, Jason. You showed great courage today. You inspired the others. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite it." Her words resonated with him, but Jason couldn't shake the feeling of doubt. "I know we fought well, but what if I fail my team next time? What if I can't protect everyone?" "Doubts are normal, especially in times like this," Lyra replied, her voice soft but firm. "Even the greatest warriors feel fear. What matters is how we respond to that fear. We must prepare ourselves for what comes next." As they spoke, Sarah approached, her face flushed with exhaustion. "Hey, you two. I overheard part of your conversation. Jason, I get what you're saying. I felt the same way. But we can't let fear hold us back. We've come this far together." "Exactly," Lyra agreed. "We learn from each battle. We grow stronger." Mia joined them, her brow furrowed with worry. "I think we should focus on healing our injured first. If we want to be ready for the Gorgons, we need everyone at full strength." "Right," Jason said, standing up with renewed purpose. "Let's help our people and prepare for what's to come. We need a plan." As night fell, they gathered around a fire, the warm glow contrasting with the cool night air. The group shared stories of their homes and families, finding comfort in each other's company. Jason listened as the Varanth recounted tales of their own battles and victories. He admired their bravery and felt inspired by their strength. "We will train harder," Kirin announced, looking at the humans with pride. "Together, we will become a force that no one can challenge." The warriors nodded in agreement. Each one had faced doubts, but they knew that together, they could overcome anything. The next day, training resumed. They practiced both combat and strategy, working to combine their strengths. Jason focused on his medical skills, ensuring that every warrior was healthy and ready to fight. He taught the Varanth how to treat wounds using human methods, while learning about their natural remedies. During one training session, they'd practiced forming a defensive line. "Remember to keep your shields up," Jason instructed, watching as the warriors paired up to face imaginary enemies. "Stay close and protect each other." As they drilled, Jason couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in their progress. The warriors were growing stronger and more confident with each passing day. He noticed that the Varanth began to rely on their human allies more, asking for advice and sharing their own techniques. But doubt still lingered in the back of Jason's mind. What if they faced an enemy greater than themselves? Would he be able to protect everyone? One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of training, Jason sat by the fire, lost in thought. Sarah joined him, sensing his unease. "What's bothering you?" she asked gently. "I'm worried," he admitted. "We've trained hard, but I can't shake the feeling that it won't be enough. What if something goes wrong? What if we lose someone?" Sarah placed her hand on his. "You can't control everything, Jason. None of us can. But we can be prepared. And we have each other's backs. That's what matters most." He nodded, her words bringing him some comfort. "You're right. I need to trust in our training and our team." The days turned into weeks, and as the Gorgons loomed closer, Jason felt a growing sense of determination. Each training session brought them closer together, and he began to believe in their strength. He noticed the warriors becoming more skilled, their movements sharper and their unity stronger. On the final night before their next anticipated battle, they gathered around the fire one last time. Kiran spoke, his voice strong and unwavering. "Tomorrow, we will face our enemy again. But remember, we are not alone. We have each other. Together, we will protect our home and our people." Cheers erupted, filling the night air with energy. Jason felt a spark of hope ignite within him. He realized that doubt was a part of their journey, but so was courage. As he lay down to sleep that night, he closed his eyes with a new sense of resolve. He might still have fears, but he also had friends, allies, and a purpose. Tomorrow, they would fight together, and whatever happened, they would face it as one. The final battle. The dawn of battle broke with a heavy silence. The sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. Jason stood at the front lines, his heart pounding in his chest. Today was the day they would face the Gorgons once more. The training they had endured for weeks would be put to the ultimate test. As he looked around, he saw the Vintha warriors readying themselves. Their expressions were serious, but a fire burned in their eyes. Jason took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. He had been a medic, a healer, but now he had to be a fighter. He knew he couldn't let his fears take over. He glanced at his friends, Sarah and Lyra, who stood by his side. "Are you ready?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the tension. "I am," Jason replied, though he felt a flutter of doubt in his stomach. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Remember, we fight together. We trust each other." Just then, Kiran walked over, his tall figure casting a shadow over them. "It's time," he said, his voice firm. "We move out. Stay sharp and stay close." The group gathered, forming a line. Jason felt the weight of their hopes on his shoulders, but he also felt a sense of belonging. They were a team, united in purpose. As they marched toward the Gorgons' territory, the atmosphere grew heavy with anticipation. The air was thick with the smell of dust and tension. As they approached the battlefield, they saw the Gorgons waiting for them. Their monstrous forms loomed in the distance, a menacing sight. Jason's heart raced, but he remembered Lyra's words. Courage is acting despite fear. Kiran raised his sword, signaling the charge. "For our people," he shouted, and the warriors surged forward, a wave of determination. The clash of metal rang out as they met the Gorgons in battle. Jason found himself in the thick of it, dodging and weaving between the warriors. He saw one of the Vintha fall, and instinct kicked in. He rushed to the injured warrior's side, quickly applying a bandage. "Stay with me," he urged, his hands trembling. "Jason, get back," Sarah shouted, fighting off an attacking Gorgon nearby. He glanced up just in time to see her deflect a blow aimed at him. "Thanks," he called back, his heart swelling with gratitude. The battle raged on. Jason worked tirelessly, helping the wounded while keeping an eye on the fight. He felt a mix of fear and determination. The Gorgons were fierce, but his friends were fighting with everything they had. He had to do the same. In the chaos, he spotted Lyra facing off against a massive Gorgon. She was skilled and agile, but the beast was strong. Jason's heart raced as he watched her dodge its attacks, her sword slicing through the air, but she was beginning to tire. "Lyra," he shouted, rushing toward her, determined to help. Just as he reached her, the Gorgon swung its massive arm. Without thinking, Jason threw himself in front of her. The blow knocked him to the ground, pain exploding through his body. But he had done what he intended. He had protected her. "Jason," Lyra cried, her eyes wide with horror. "Get up," he urged, struggling to push himself off the ground. "Fight. I'm okay." Lyra nodded, her expression shifting from fear to fierce determination. With a swift move, she drove her sword deep into the Gorgon's side, bringing it down. "Stay down," she shouted, turning to Jason. "You're hurt." "I'll be fine," he insisted, though he felt weak. The adrenaline coursing through him kept him moving. As the battle continued, Jason focused on helping others. He bandaged wounds, urged warriors to keep fighting, and felt the strength of their unity. Even when the Gorgons charged, they stood their ground together. Hours passed, and exhaustion set in. The battlefield was a chaotic blend of roars, clashing swords, and cries of pain. Jason's heart raced as he saw Sarah surrounded by Gorgons. Without thinking, he dashed toward her. "Sarah," he shouted, pushing through the mass of fighting bodies. He reached her just in time, grabbing her hand and pulling her back as a Gorgon swung its weapon. "Thanks, Jason," she gasped, her breath coming in quick bursts. "We need to regroup." Kiran's voice rose above the noise. "Fall back. We need to strategize." The warriors began to pull back, creating a tight circle to regroup. Jason could see the weariness on their faces, but he also saw determination. They had fought hard, and they were not ready to give up. "Listen," Kiran shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We have one chance. We must take out their leader. If we can bring it down, the others will falter." Jason felt a surge of hope. "What do we need to do?" he asked. "We need to distract them while a small group sneaks around." "Can you keep the injured safe while we fight?" Kiran asked, looking at him seriously. "I will," Jason promised, his resolve strengthening. The plan was set. As Kiran, Lyra, and Sarah charged forward, Jason stayed behind, tending to the injured. He watched as his friends fought bravely, their movements fluid and powerful. The leader of the Gorgons was huge, but he could see the warriors working together, pushing through their fears. With a final battle cry, Kiran delivered a blow to the Gorgon leader, and Jason felt a rush of adrenaline. They were winning. The Gorgons began to retreat, confusion spreading among their ranks. As the last Gorgon fell, cheers erupted across the battlefield. The Vintha warriors and humans came together, exhausted but victorious. Jason felt a swell of pride and relief. They had faced their fears, fought as one, and emerged stronger. As night fell, the warriors gathered, tending to the wounded and sharing stories of their bravery. Jason realized that doubt might come again, but they had proven their courage. They were more than just allies. They were a family, bound by the battles they had fought together. A bright future. The sun rose gently over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the battlefield. It was quiet now, the echoes of clashing metal and cries of war replaced by a peaceful silence. Jason stood among the Vintha warriors, gazing at the remnants of their fight. The ground was littered with the signs of battle, but amidst the debris, there was also a sense of hope and victory. As he looked around, he saw his friends gathering. Kiran was talking to Lyra and Sarah, their expressions a mix of relief and pride. Jason felt a swell of happiness in his chest. They had fought bravely and won against the Gorgons. It was a moment they would always remember. "Jason," Sarah called, waving him over. He walked toward them, his heart light. "Did you see that final blow?" Kiran said, grinning widely. "You really distracted that Gorgon. I couldn't have taken down the leader without you." Jason smiled back, the warmth of friendship washing over him. "I just did what needed to be done. We all played our part." Lyra nodded, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "And we did it together. I never thought I would fight alongside humans and win. It feels amazing." Just then, the leaders of both the Vintha and human forces approached, their expressions serious but relieved. The two leaders shook hands, a symbol of their new alliance. Jason felt a wave of optimism as he watched this moment unfold. "We have much to discuss," the Vintha leader said. "Today, we have forged a bond. Together, we can protect our worlds from any threat." Jason realized how important this was. They had fought not just for survival, but for a future where humans and Vintha would stand side by side, united. As the warriors began to gather around, Jason felt the energy shift. They were not just celebrating their victory, they were planning for what came next. Today marks the beginning of a new era, the human leader said, raising his voice to address the crowd. We will share our knowledge, our resources, and our strength. Together, we can create a safer future. Cheers erupted from the warriors, their spirits lifted by the promise of cooperation. Jason could see the hope in their eyes. He felt a strong desire to be a part of this change, to help shape a better world for everyone. Later that day, the warriors gathered for a feast. Tables were set up, filled with food from both cultures. Jason joined his friends at one of the tables, and they shared stories of their battles and laughter. He felt lighter, the burdens of war slowly lifting. Can you believe we did it? Sarah said, her eyes shining. We took down a Gorgon leader. I know, Jason replied, chuckling. I still can't believe I threw myself in front of you like that. What was I thinking? Lyra laughed, shaking her head. You were thinking of protecting your friend. That's what makes you a hero, Jason. Jason felt a blush rise to his cheeks. I just did what felt right. As the feast continued, they shared more stories, laughter filling the air. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the harshness of battle. Later, Kieran stood up, raising his glass for a toast. To our victory, to our new alliance, and to the bright future ahead. Everyone raised their glasses, their voices echoing in agreement. To the future. The celebration lasted late into the night with songs and dances from both cultures. Jason felt a deep sense of connection with the Vintha. They were no longer strangers, they were friends, allies, and family. As the night wore on, Jason found a quiet spot away from the festivities. He gazed up at the stars, their brightness reflecting his hopes. The events of the past few weeks had changed him. He was no longer just a medic. He was a fighter, a protector, and a part of something bigger. Hey, you all right? Sarah asked, joining him. She stood beside him, looking up at the sky. Yeah, just thinking, Jason replied, a smile forming on his lips, about everything we've accomplished and what's to come. Sarah nodded. It's exciting, isn't it? We have a chance to build something great together. Absolutely, Jason said, feeling the surge of determination. We can make a difference. In the days that followed, the alliance between humans and Vintha grew stronger. They shared knowledge, technology, and ideas. Jason found himself working alongside the Vintha in ways he never imagined. They taught him their ways of fighting and survival, while he shared his medical skills to help them recover from the battles. He felt a sense of purpose in every action he took. Together, they built training camps, learned new strategies, and prepared for any potential threats. The bond they formed was unbreakable. One day, as Jason trained with a group of Vintha warriors, he felt a sense of pride. He had come a long way from the scared medic who had stumbled into a war. He was now a respected member of the team, a leader in his own right. Jason, Kieran called, running over. We've received news. The Gorgons are retreating from our territories. They're regrouping far from here. The news brought cheers from the group. Jason felt relief wash over him. Their hard work had paid off. The Gorgons would no longer threaten their homes. As the sun set on another day, Jason knew that their victory was just the beginning. They had built a strong alliance, forged through struggle and courage. The future was bright, and together, they would face whatever came next. With hope in his heart, Jason looked forward to the adventures ahead, ready to defend their newfound peace and friendship. He had found his place, and it was right here, among friends and allies, fighting for a better tomorrow.